Hello and welcome to the Day Before Game Day podcast. I'm Rutik and I'm joined with Agila and Garv. We will be talking about the upcoming games that are happening on Saturday, January 9th, of the WILDCARD tripleheader weekend. Up first, Bills and Colts. Agila, who do you think the X factor of this game is going to be?
I believe the X factor of the Bills versus Colts game today is going to be Nyheim Hines. Now, although Jonathan Taylor has been known as the primary back, it's really been Nyheim Hines who runs completely different than Jonathan Taylor in terms of both his elusive and power back style. And I believe that if they can create a 1-2 punch with their running backs, Nyheim Hines can go for several dozens of yards today and really make a large impact. Now, the Bills' defense is not known as a great run-stopping team, especially considering that their only real Pro Bowl level alignment, D lineman at this point is Jerry Hughes. Now, when we're talking about the Bills in general, I believe that they won't be able to stop Nyheim Hines or Jonathan Taylor completely, but I believe they will have to focus on one specific back. In my mind, this will be Jonathan Taylor, as he's known as the primary back for the Colts at this point in time. Now, if Nyheim Hines can turn on the Jets and go for 70, 75 yards, I believe that he can really be the X factor in this game.
Okay, Garv, who is your X factor for this game?
My X factor for this game is Cole Beasley. So we all know that Xavier Rhodes will most likely be the one covering Stephon Diggs. So that limits Josh Allen's ability to throw to Stephon Diggs. So he's going to have to focus really hard on Cole Beasley, and Cole Beasley must show up in order for that to happen. And I don't think Josh Allen will get a lot of time in the pocket or out of pocket. So he won't be able to scramble because of the sheer force of DeForest Buckner. So if Cole Beasley shows up, gets yards, goes down the field, just does his thing, the Bills should be able to get points on the board, and he is the X factor of this game.
Okay, my X factor for this game is going to be DeForest Buckner. Now, recently he had an amazing season with the 49ers. He was then later sent to the Colts, but he has really stepped up in this game. So I really want to see if DeForest Buckner will be able to give pressure on Josh Allen and make him really uncomfortable, causing him to make bad decisions, helping his team. Okay, so what are some flaws that can be exploited that the other team can take advantage of? Starting with the Bills and Colts. Gillen, what is your say on this?
All right, so when we're talking about the Bills, they're arguably the most complete team in the NFL. Now, when talking about the Chiefs, obviously their red zone touchdown percentage is pretty low. That needs to be worked on. When talking about the Packers, their run defense is obviously subpar. That needs to be worked on. But generally, when someone mentions the Bills, no real weaknesses come up immediately. However, there are some underlying problems that the Colts need to take advantage of to win this game, specifically in Josh Allen's play. Now, Josh Allen's been having an MVP year, but his style of play is extremely risky and may not pay off in the playoffs. Now, Josh Allen is one of the quarterbacks in the NFL who takes the most risks. So far, he has 16 total turnovers on his season. Now, 16 total turnovers is a lot in comparison to quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson, but it's no absolutely crazy amount. But that gets compounded when you think about the fact that, according to PFF, Josh Allen throws passes that end up in turnover-worthy plays much, much more of the time. He has 16 total turnovers in the season. By November, which is 3 months ago, Josh Allen already had 17 turnover-worthy plays, and that number has just compounded. Josh Allen takes a lot of risks that don't need to be taken. Whenever Cole Beasley or Stephon Diggs is one-on-one or even two-on-one with half a step ahead, Josh Allen tends to throw the ball their way. He's very confident in his arm, but that may be his downfall, especially considering that the Colts capitalize on turnovers 24/7. I.e., the Packers game against Aaron Rodgers, who has the least turnovers in football as of this moment. Yet, against the Colts, he fumbled one time, and he also threw an interception. Now, I believe another key point about Josh Allen's game that may be a flaw towards the Bills' system is his lack of movement in the pocket until he chooses to scramble. Josh Allen's throwing motion and throwing style is one where he stands completely still until he decides to throw the ball. Now, when you look at other quarterbacks throwing forms, i.e. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, they tend to jump around in the pocket and be ready to move on a moment's notice. Josh Allen stands completely still, which likely inhibits his ability to react instantaneously to people breaching the pocket. I believe that the Colts' defensive front is extremely, extremely good. So when it comes to breaching the pocket, I believe that could be an issue unless Josh Allen is extremely aware of what's going on all the time. Now,
Okay, Garb, what are some exploits the Bills can take advantage of from the Colts side?
So a flaw that the Bills could expose on the Colts is the lack of really impactful wide receivers. The Colts don't have a great wide receiver core, and they're kind of lucky that they got into the playoffs. Philip Rivers' top target is T.Y. Hilton, only caught 56 of 91 passes for 762 yards and 5 touchdowns. His throws to another receiver, Zach Pascal, is pretty similar to that of T.Y. Hilton, with 629 yards and 5 touchdowns. However, none of these receivers are able to get clear separation from their defender. Pascal averaged 2.9 yards of separation at the time of a catch in the season, and T.Y. Hilton averaged 2.5 yards. Those numbers are ranked 59th and 78th on NFL's Next Gen Stats. So that's not really something that could really help them catch the ball and get yards. So if the Bills is able to hang on tight and not have any separation between the receivers, and expect Philip Rivers to run the ball or not be able to even throw it or cause picks. So through that, I think that the Colts could easily get lost in their system, and the Bills could exploit it easily. The second one is Philip Rivers being kind of a pocket passer. This Bills defensive front, I think, is very underrated, even though they're on an elite level. And they could easily break through the Colts offensive line, especially on the left side, since majority of their plays do come on the left side of the offensive line, making it easier for the Bills to exploit that flaw and sack Philip Rivers, causing loss in yardage and good field position for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
all right, and I also want to touch on one more specific key advantage the Colts have over the Bills. Now, if you guys notice, all the numbers on the NFL field are written in white, correct? The primary color on the Colts uniform is white, so they can just blend in and camouflage.
Okay.
Stop.
All right, moving on.
What?
to
That's
the
such a
next game.
fair. That's completely fair.
Okay.
You know it.
All right. Okay. Up next is
Rams, Seahawks.
Rams versus Seahawks. Aguila, who's your X factor for this game?
In terms of the Rams versus Seahawks game, my X factor for this game is going to be Jared Goff. And it's not really whether or not Jared Goff is an amazing game. It's really whether or not
I don't think he's gonna play.
It's really not whether he shows up or not. So that's what I'm saying. So I believe that Jared Goff will be the X factor in terms of whether he shows up or not, because arguably the quarterback the backup quarterback they had play last week, he may be very good, but he has no playoff experience, and Jared Goff already has been on a run to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks team is very, very hot on offense, and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey can only stop them for so long. I believe the Rams offense needs to put up at least 17 or more points. And in order to do this, especially in the playoffs against a division rival, they need Jared Goff.
Okay, Garv, who is your X factor for this game?
I am 100% on board with Aguilan's analysis. Jared Goff will be the X factor if he plays. But if he does not play, the X factor I will see is Cooper Kupp. Because Cooper Kupp is like a really versatile receiver. He can run routes, but I still have doubts on his catching ability, even though he can show up. So if John Wolford or Jared Goff are able to connect with Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp can able to get yards after receiving, then they should be able to secure a win.
Okay, and so my X factor of this game is going to be Jamal Adams. Now, one of the more versatile defensive players. Rather having interceptions, he likes to go for sacks. So we have to see how much pressure can Jamal Adams have on, I believe, John Wolford, since Jared Goff is probably not going to play. So if Jamal Adams can really make the Rams quarterback uncomfortable, the Seattle defense will be in a good position. Also, Carlos Dunlap, since he's being very underrated throughout the season. So, Gillian, what are some disadvantages of the Seahawks that Rams can take full advantage of?
Now, the Seahawks are known as a pretty prolific team in the NFL, with one of the largest fan bases the NFL has seen in recent years. Now, the Seahawks had a really hot start to the season, with Russell Wilson showing up in MVP form. However, due to continuous turnovers and a lack of passing awareness, Russell Wilson has since fallen out of the MVP race. Now, when considering postseason records, Russell Wilson is one of the most experienced playoff players. He has a lot of playoff experience, especially going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, which shows that he has a specific advantage when it comes into the playoffs. However, this Rams team also has playoff experience, making it to the Super Bowl themselves. Now, here are some key disadvantages I believe that the Rams can take advantage of when considering the Seahawks. One, the Seahawks passing defense. The Seahawks passing defense is ranked 31st in the NFL, which is second to last. This, for a playoff team, is especially
Bro, they're better in the last 5 weeks, just saying.
They're still garbage, dude.
What are
They're
you
still
talking about?
garbage.
They're like second in the last 5
Seahawks are the
weeks.
most garbage team I've ever seen. Okay, that's all you need to know. Now, when moving on to the Seahawks passing defense, like I said, it's 31st ranked in the NFL. Now, people say it may have been better in the last 5 weeks, but in all reality, who did they play in the last 5 weeks? The highlights of the last 5 weeks have been the Jets
Rams
and the Washington football team.
and the Rams.
And the Rams minus Jared Goff. So, when talking about like in specific the Seahawks, I believe that the Seahawks rely way too much on Russell Wilson as a singular player. They believe that he can carry them to victory continuously. Now, the last time someone had a 31st ranked defense and took them into the playoffs was Aaron Rodgers in 2011, who was consistently the best quarterback in football. Now, Russell Wilson has tried to do that this season and dramatically failed. So, Russell Wilson started out the season very well. However, later in the season, he takes upon himself too much to make these ridiculous throws that no quarterback in the NFL can be counted on to make continuously. Russell Wilson is an elite quarterback, but it's impossible for him to continuously make the exact same throws that are absolutely out of this world. And because of that, they end up losing games. Now, the Seahawks are one of the most pass-reliant teams in football, especially through the first 8 weeks. 2 out of every three plays were passing plays. However, their elite running backs, especially in their large depth, including but not included to Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, etc. All of these players have a specific advantage in the run game. They're power backs. They can really do what they want to. And Pete Carroll is great at coaching power. But Seattle just doesn't use these running backs enough. So I believe that the second key takeaway, other than the fact that the Rams need to take advantage of the Seahawks passing defense, is that the Rams must take advantage of the fact that the Seahawks rarely run the ball, meaning they can drop back 5 or 6 nearly every play, and regardless of what happens, Russell Wilson is probably going to pass the ball. The third disadvantage I believe that the Rams can take advantage of in terms of the Seahawks is Russell Wilson's affinity to extend the play. Now, the Seahawks are very, very reliant on Russell Wilson in terms of extending the play. He's a great player individually, but teams can't rely on just one guy to do everything for them every single week. So, Russell Wilson is great at extending the play, but when Aaron Donald is coming around one of the sides, you can always be sure that Russell Wilson is probably going to extend the play the other way. Taking advantage of this and putting on extra linebackers and QB spots in order to keep Russell Wilson from extending the play for far too long and allowing one of his receivers to stay open, especially considering the fact that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, Wilson's 2 best receivers, have been held to under 70 yards in both of their previous encounters. I believe that that if the Rams can successfully keep Russell Wilson from extending these plays, they have a very good chance to win the game. And this is another specific deficiency they have to exploit.
Okay, Garb,
Wow.
what are some disadvantages of the Rams the Seahawks can take advantage of?
Well, apparently Joe Noteboom is not really the greatest offensive lineman in the world. That's like facts. And now that Andrew Whitworth is coming back from an ACL, I don't know, a PCL, I don't know if this man could really be at the
DCL.
same level. It was a PCL/MCL. We'll get to that
What
later.
even is a PCL?
Bro, will you two stop arguing?
That's not the
Just
point.
go.
It's not the point. So I don't know if Andrew Whitworth will be coming back to the form that he was earlier. So if he is not able to be able to protect Jared Goff or whoever is playing like John, what's his name again?
John Wolford?
John Morant.
John Wolford. Yes.
That guy was big like 5 years ago.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Aguila, will you stop talking?
Shush. So if the defense will be able to stop Andrew Whitworth from protecting Jared Goff or John Wolford, then the resurgent run defense of the Seattle Seahawks could easily break through and probably sack or pressure Jared Goff into making bad mistakes. Furthermore, another lack that I mentioned on the Colts is something similar that the Rams have, not the greatest wide receiver core. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are good wide receivers, by no doubt, but none of them are wide receiver one type of caliber. They need someone who could really guide them, and they also lack in separation with their receivers, ranking 64th. So, with
What?
that being said,
How can their receiver core rank 64th when they're a 32
no,
team?
no, no, I'm talking about Cooper Kupp individually.
Hey, you gotta make
Josh.
that a little more clear. I was so confused.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So, with that being said, the Seahawks pass defense, which Aguilan clearly biasedly says is terrible, I think that resurgence could really help them um, create a lack of separation, therefore exploiting the Rams' passing ability, and they might have to run the ball.
Moving on, next game is Buccaneers versus Washington. I will note, I'm pretty sure Alex Smith is not going to be playing this game. Tyler Heineke is pretty sure stepping in after Alex Smith's calf has been really sore throughout the week, and he's really fighting through it. But they say they will try and get him to play, which is very unlikely though. So, Gillen, who is your X factor of this game?
My X factor of this game is going to be Chase Young. Now, Chase Young has really showed up in a large way during this entire football season, especially considering that he's a real favorite at this point to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's ended up with a lot of sacks, ended up with a lot of picks, ended up with a lot of fumbles, etc., etc., etc. He's very good at turning the ball over. He's very good at pressuring the quarterback. Now, the Buccaneers today are 8-point favorites against Washington for a specific reason. They are a very solid team with a very high floor, especially considering that even on their worst days, obviously excluding the Saints game, their defense is able to stop the opponent's team from putting up a lot of points, and their offense is able to put up a moderate amount of points. So even on their worst days, they're generally an average team. Now, Washington is a team that finished with a losing record for a reason. They aren't a complete team yet, especially at the quarterback position, where Dwayne Haskins has recently been cut and Alex Smith is injured. I believe in order for Washington to have a fighting chance, Chase Young needs to show up in a big way. He needs to be able to pressure Brady 24/7, especially considering that Brady is a pocket passer. If Chase Young can deliver enough pressure on Brady, I believe that Brady will not be able to fully be able to complete to his obviously stellar receiver core, including Godwin, Evans, and Antonio Brown, and Scotty Miller. I believe that Brady will be forced to run the ball more on audibles, etc., etc. I believe Chase Young really needs to make a large impact in this game by preventing both the passing and running game from really taking effect.
Okay, Garth, who is your X factor for this game?
So my X factor for this game will be Logan Thomas, the tight end for the Washington football team. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the last 7 games, he has scored 3 touchdowns and 42 targets. So he's been on a hot streak on all the tight end core in the entire NFL, and he should be able to come out more. And if he gets more targets, and specifically just being able to be a red zone target and find a way to run routes to be open, he should like make it harder for the for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. I still think the Buccaneers do have like an edge on them, but if Logan Thomas shows out, I think the Buccaneers will have a very hard time covering this man.
Okay, and my X factor for this game is going to be the Bucs' entire offensive line. Now, the Washington football defensive line has been very good. Mostly all their players are first-round picks, so showing exceptionally high level at that stage. And with the addition of Chase Young this year, it has been going to another level. Now, so in order for the Buccaneers to win this game, their offensive line needs to step up and limit the pressure that is being given on Tom Brady. Like when the Bears played the Bucs, Khalil Mack was able to get extreme amount of pressure, limiting what Tom Brady was able to do, along with some penalties, but that's not included. So in order for the Bucs to win this game, their offensive line really needs to step up against the Washington defensive line. Hey, Gillett, what are some Buccaneers flaws the Washington team can take advantage of?
Now, the Buccaneers are, as I mentioned before, a very high-floor team. Their team is full of talent, and even on their worst days, they're still an average team, obviously excluding the Saints game. However, there are some certain flaws, especially including Brady and Bruce Arians, that really need to be exploited by Washington in order to win this game.
I think they have a
As
good
I
chemistry, if you
mentioned,
ask me.
the first flaw, I believe, that the Washington football team needs to take advantage of is the lack of chemistry between Brady and Bruce Arians. Now, some Buccaneers fans may disagree with this, but Bruce Arians is a very deep throw heavy coach, noting, and this is clear, noting how many times Brady has thrown the ball deep this season. He's the
Yet he
number
always
one
blames
quarterback in
Brady.
terms of deep pass attempts this year. However, Brady is a very short pass quarterback, as you can see throughout his years in New England. He's a fan of screen passes, underneath passes, smaller post routes, smaller crosses, etc. Arians loves to go deep. Brady doesn't. This year, Brady has overthrown more receivers than many of the quarterbacks in the NFL. This is because he's not used to Bruce Arians' system. Not that he's a bad quarterback. He obviously has more completions than many quarterbacks in the NFL in the deep as well, but that's because he has nearly double or triple their deep attempts. Now, I believe that if they continuously throw the ball deep, especially considering that Washington has the second-ranked pass defense in football, arguably the best pass defense in football, this is going to result in a lot of turnovers. Brady is known for a quarterback that knows what risks to take and what risks not to take, but Arians is forcing him to throw the ball deep. This could result in turnovers, and Washington needs to be able to take advantage of that in order to win this game. The second flaw I see with the Buccaneers team is their heavy reliance on Mike Evans. Now, Brady loves Mike Evans. It's very similar to the Trubisky's love of Taylor Gabriel last year. Brady continuously throws the ball to Mike Evans, regardless of the fact that every other receiver on his team can catch the exact same balls in the exact same way. If you have Antonio Brown, Godwin, and Scotty Miller as your speedster waiting to catch the ball on the other end, I believe that Brady should pass more to those receivers than he passes to Mike Evans over and over again. Now, you can argue that this is because of Mike Evans' great route running, but Godwin is known as a better route runner than Mike Evans. So I believe that Washington needs to take advantage of the fact that Brady continuously targets Mike Evans, and also needs to take advantage of the fact that Brady is not used to throwing these deep balls.
Garv, what disadvantages of the Washington football team can the Bucs take advantage of?
So the Washington football team has a distinct lack in yards in the air. We're talking about how the Buccaneers always throw deep. Well, how about the fact that the Washington football team rarely throws deep, which is something that the Buccaneers rushing defense could also take advantage of. Because they don't go too shallow, I think that it's possible for even linebackers to intercept balls easily. And Antoine Winfield Jr. will not spare any of these people.
Is that it?
The Washington football team really does not put much effort into passing recently, and a prime example of that was their Sunday night win over the Eagles team, where they were not interested in playing at full strength. The defense could get the job done, but when you are looking at that offense, they're a dead last in DVOA in passing. And there are many reasons for this heinous stat. The first one is Dwayne Haskins, who thankfully is gone. However, Alex Smith does not really pass that deep either. Who was the backup for this game?
Tyler Heineke.
Yeah, Tyler Heineke is not a quarterback
Taylor
I can
Heineke.
trust since,
Something.
well, he is a backup for the Washington football team. So I don't think that he will be passing too deep. Alex Smith, when he played, did go on deep passes for 2024 for 335 yards. But in the postseason, it's going to be hard looking at the Buccaneers' pass defense, and I think Antoine Winfield Sr. or Jr. could easily stop it. Washington football team has the league's third fewest air yards with only 1520, which is behind the Patriots and Jets. So this offense is not one that I could really be proud of. So I easily think that that could be a flaw that the Buccaneers will have no trouble in exploiting.